Have you ever wondered about that one moment? That single tipping point where the course of history was irrevocably altered? A moment where humanity, pushed to the brink, decided to fight back with everything it had? Today, we're diving deep into one such event, a battle so monumental that its echoes still shape our world. This isn't just a story of strategy and force. It's a story of desperation, innovation, and the indomitable will to survive. Imagine a world teetering on the edge of collapse. For years, a relentless force had been advancing, seemingly unstoppable. Kingdoms had fallen, armies had been crushed, and hope was a flickering candle in a hurricane. The prevailing wisdom was to surrender, to accept the inevitable. But in the darkest of times, sometimes the most defiant hope is born. Our story begins not in a grand palace, but in the muddy fields and smoky workshops where a few determined souls dared to believe they could turn the tide. They knew that facing the enemy head-on with conventional tactics was a fool's errand. The enemy was stronger, larger, and better equipped. A different approach was needed, one that was radical, unpredictable, and frankly, a little bit crazy. The plan was audacious. It relied not on brute strength, but on cunning, terrain, and a revolutionary new technology that most considered unreliable, even dangerous. The leaders of this resistance weren't just generals. They were engineers, scholars, and strategists who understood that the battlefield was not just land, but also the mind. They began to spread misinformation, creating phantom armies and false supply lines to confuse and stretch the enemy's resources thin. They used their intimate knowledge of the local geography, the treacherous mountain passes, the dense, disorienting forests, the unpredictable river currents, to their advantage. They transformed their homeland into a weapon. Every valley was a potential ambush site, every foggy morning a cloak for their movements. While the enemy was being led on this wild goose chase, something incredible was happening in secret. Far from the front lines, artisans and thinkers worked day and night to perfect their secret weapon. It wasn't a bigger sword or a stronger shield. It was a concept, an idea given form, designed to exploit the one critical vulnerability they had identified in their seemingly invincible foe. The risks were immense. If it failed, it would not only be a waste of precious time and resources, but would also signal the final end. The pressure was unimaginable, yet they persevered, fueled by the stories of loss and the dream of a future where their children could live without fear. They were literally forging the key to their own salvation. Finally, the moment came. The enemy, arrogant and overconfident, was lured into a location meticulously chosen by the resistance. It was a natural basin, a valley surrounded by high cliffs, a place that seemed like an easy conquest, but was, in reality, a perfectly designed trap. As the enemy forces marched into the valley, they were confident, expecting another swift victory. They had no idea they were walking into the pages of history. The leaders of the resistance watched from the cliffs above, their hearts pounding. Everything, years of planning, sacrifice, and desperate hope, came down to this single day, this single moment. As the trap was sprung, chaos erupted. It wasn't a traditional clash of steel. Instead, the resistance unleashed their new strategy. They used sound and light to disorient the enemy, creating illusions and panic. They triggered controlled rock slides, rerouted streams to turn the ground into a quagmire, and funneled the confused troops into kill zones. And then, at the height of the confusion, they unveiled their secret weapon. It wasn't just its power that was shocking, but its nature. It completely neutralized the enemy's primary advantage, turning their greatest strength into a crippling weakness. Imagine the shock on the faces of soldiers who believed they were invincible, only to find their most trusted tactics utterly useless. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical one. The myth of the enemy's invincibility was shattered, not by a greater force, but by superior intellect and unbreakable will. The battle raged for hours, a testament to the ferocity of those fighting for their very existence. When the dust finally settled, the valley was silent. The once mighty invading army was broken, not just in numbers, but in spirit. News of the victory spread like wildfire. It was a spark that ignited a blaze of rebellion across the land. People who had been living in fear now picked up whatever they could and joined the fight. The tide had not just turned. A tsunami of defiance was now washing back against the invaders. This battle became known as the turning point, the moment humanity stared into the abyss and refused to blink. It taught us that the human spirit, when cornered and united, is the most powerful force in the universe. It proved that innovation, courage, and the refusal to surrender can overcome even the most insurmountable odds. The technologies and strategies developed for that one desperate gambit went on to define the future, changing the way we live, think, and defend ourselves forever. It wasn't just a military victory, it was a victory for the human imagination. So why does this story matter to us today? Because we all face our own battles. We face challenges that seem overwhelming, forces that appear unstoppable. But this story reminds us that we should never underestimate the power of a new idea, the strength of a united community, and the sheer stubbornness of the human heart. It teaches us that when we are pushed to our limits, that is often when we are on the verge of our greatest breakthroughs. The legacy of that battle is not just a chapter in a history book. It's a reminder that within each of us lies the capacity to change everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. What do you think was the most critical element of their victory? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more pivotal moments in history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay curious and never stop fighting your good fight.